All right, today we're going to dive into a pattern that might just be the blueprint for, well, everything. We're talking about a recursive loop that seems to build reality itself, from something as simple as a traffic light all the way up to a galaxy.
Okay, I know, it sounds like the start of a really weird joke, right? But the answer actually gets at this incredibly deep truth about how order emerges from total chaos. So what is the connection? That's the mystery we're going to unravel today.
To figure it out, let's start by looking at where things tend to break. Take our most advanced technology. Why is it that these incredibly powerful AIs, when you push them too far, sometimes just hallucinate and start spitting out nonsense? Well, it turns out it's not really a bug. It's a clue to a much, much deeper pattern of how structures fail.
And we see this exact same pattern in our economies. How can a financial market that seems totally stable one day suddenly completely collapse under stress? What is that invisible pressure that causes a system built on rules to just fracture into chaos?
And then you can zoom out even further, to our own societies. How can social structures that have been around forever suddenly become unstable and just break apart? You see, all of these failures, from AI to economies to entire cultures, they're all pointing to the very same fundamental weakness.
But here's the cool part. The reason why things break also tells us how they hold together in the first place. The solution is this universal pattern, a process that actively takes chaos and forges it into something coherent and stable.
Let's make this super simple. Imagine an intersection in a city, but with no rules, no signs, no lights, cars are just flying in from all directions. What you have is a contradiction. Everyone wants to go at the same time, and that leads directly to chaos, to crashes. It's an active, messy, unresolved problem. So what's our solution? We invent a traffic light. And that simple act of invention is a perfect example of what our source material calls a symbolic cognitive process, or an SCP. Now, this is a core idea for everything else we're going to talk about, so really lock this in. An SCP is just any system that takes a contradiction and resolves it by creating a reusable symbolic form, a rule to guide what it does next. It literally turns chaos into a memory. And this isn't some one-off trick. It's a fundamental loop that reality itself seems to use to build itself, piece by piece. So let's break down exactly how this universal process actually works. So every single SCP follows these 4 key steps. First, the system smacks into a contradiction, like 2 cars wanting to be in the same place at the same time. Second, it tries to stabilize that chaos using its own internal logic. Third, and this is the magic step, it does something called symbolic compression. It takes that whole messy situation and distills it down into a simple, reusable symbol, like red light means stop. And fourth, that new symbol gets used over and over again, recursively, to guide behavior from then on. You can think of this entire loop as a dance between 2 things, function and form. Function is the live, active pressure of right now. The car is crashing, the market swinging wildly. Form, on the other hand, is memory. It's the stable structure that's created from that past chaos. The traffic light itself is the form that was born out of the chaotic function of that dangerous intersection. And that brings us to the absolute key to this whole thing, symbolic compression. This is the bridge that connects the chaotic function to the stable form. It's this almost magical moment where raw chaos gets distilled into a solid, symbolic structure. A law, a gene, a memory, these are all just forms of symbolic compression. They are the crystallized solutions to problems that have already been solved. Okay, so we get it in a traffic light. Big deal, right? Well, here is where this gets completely mind-bending. This simple loop, it doesn't just happen in one place. It scales. It repeats at every single level of existence, creating a reality that's almost fractal.
Let's just see how this pattern scales up. The exact same loop. Contradiction, resolution, compression, reuse. It isn't just for traffic. The argument is that this is the fundamental operating system for everything. Physics, biology, your own thoughts, and even society.
And here it is. This is the big aha moment, laid out in what the source calls the SCP stack. Just look at this. At the quantum level, the contradiction of a particle being in multiple states at once resolves into a single stable particle state. In biology, the contradiction between a random mutation and its chances of survival gets compressed into a stable gene. In your own mind, chaotic signals from your senses get compressed into a stable memory. And in society, social tensions get compressed into a legal precedent. It's the same nested loop over and over and over, building on itself. Each solution becomes the foundation for the next level of problems.
But this, of course, raises a pretty critical question. If this stabilizing process is so universal, why do systems still break? Why do we still have AI hallucinations and market crashes and social collapse?
Well, the answer isn't that they aren't smart enough or powerful enough. As this quote from the source material explains, failure happens when a system is pushed beyond its fundamental structural limits. Every single system has a breaking point.
You see, intelligence isn't some infinite magical capability. It's a physical process of building structure, and that process is always bounded. It has hard limits, whether we're talking about a brain, a computer, or an entire civilization. It's always running on finite resources. And here are those limits. Every system, I don't care how sophisticated it is constrained by these four things. It has a finite amount of memory to store past solutions. It has a limited amount of energy to power what it does. It can only maintain so much internal coherence before contradictions just overwhelm it. And its symbols can only represent reality so well before they start to break down. Push past any one of these, and the whole thing collapses.
So let's tie this all together into one last, really profound conclusion. This whole model gives us a completely new way to look at the universe itself.
I just think this is such a powerful idea. Every stable thing you see around you, an atom, a star, a cell, a society, it's a survivor. It's the result of a conflict that was successfully resolved, and its very structure now becomes the scaffolding for the next layer of reality to be built on top of it. So the ultimate takeaway is this. Reality isn't just a collection of stuff. It's a process. It is a vast, nested, fractal memory system. Everything that exists is basically a piece of crystallized memory. It's a record of a contradiction that was faced, resolved, compressed into a stable form, and is now being reused as the basis for whatever's coming next. This isn't poetry. The source material argues it's literally physics. And that leaves us with one final, pretty provocative thought to chew on. If the entire universe is built from the memory of solved problems, then our present moment, our technology, our society, our own thoughts, we're on the front line. We are the active function, the current process of resolving contradictions. So the question is, what conflicts are we compressing into the memory of reality right now? What scaffolding are we building for the future?